Happy Thursday. We are almost there at the end of the week. This is Slice of Life, June 4th, episode 41. His name is Billy Harner. My name is Keith Rad. This is the show where we try to bring a smile to your face during quarantine. We'll start it off today with our favorite social slice. And Billy will take us to the 90s or maybe even further back. I don't know.
Yeah, so we try to bring smiles to your face, and there are few things that can bring a smile to your face immediately, like thinking about terribly cheesy 80s, early 90s movies. And that's exactly what we have here. As has sort of been the norm across the country for seniors in high school, the seniors at San Dimas High School in California had a Zoom-style graduation. But if San Dimas High School sounds familiar, you're probably my age or slightly older, because that is the high school that was featured famously in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which was released in 1989. So for the class of 2020, Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, who played Bill and Ted, came to be the commencement speakers of sort. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Alex Winter.
Hi, I'm Keanu Reeves.
And together we are
Wild Stallions.
And we know it's a tough time right now and that you're having to do this virtual graduation. We want to wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Yeah, congratulations to the graduating class of 2020. Well done.
San Dimas High School football does roll.
Rules!
But most importantly, we wanted to tell you to be excellent to each other.
And party on.
So almost sort of stay in character, I guess, but be excellent to each other. It's great advice, no matter what time.
Yeah, I love this movie, and if you haven't seen it, you just watch like 3 clips on YouTube. You'll probably be good. And Keanu Reeves has always kind of done this character too throughout his whole career. So, yeah, I mean, put simply, if you're just sitting there, your graduation ceremony, things stink, and you see these two, I'm sure, first of all, a lot of people were like, this is amazing. A lot of people were like, who are these people? You know what I mean? Like, graduating class may not even know.
Yeah, all these kids were like born 15 years after the movie came out, so they probably have no idea what they're even talking about. But the parents maybe chuckled. We'll see.
For my favorite social slice, I love to eat. Weirdly, oddly, probably a little bit different than everybody else. But this next video connected with me, not because I've done it, but because I feel it in a different way. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you're watching commercials and there's like a stain fighter commercial and you see the cat knock over the coffee and the stain goes all over the rug and your parents are like, and I'm like, what are you? It's a commercial. What is the problem? But then when it comes to food, I'm with them. Take a look. So I felt this guy's pain every step of the way. When I was in college, we used to go to Buffalo Wild Wings in Dayton, Ohio, walk down to Brown Street, and my roommate and I would walk back. And halfway home, I'd be like, do you just ever want to like run home so we could eat it faster? He's like, no, you idiot. You know, like I just really, the experience of eating food, going to get it, eating it, savoring it is one of my favorite things. So to have it literally knocked from your hands at the last possible second was horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, I had basically this exact thing happen to me a few weeks ago. My sons wanted Happy Meals from McDonald's. I was running some other errands, picking up some stuff to do around the house. So I was carrying basically everything in my hands at the same time, as dads do, to try to make it one trip. It's like a dad Olympic sport. And as I opened the door, just dropped everything and let loose some expletives that should not be repeated in front of anyone. So I knew exactly what this guy's mentality was, and I could not have felt worse for the guy.
Time for Chicken Parm Heroes. We'll go in chronological order, Bill. I'm an old soul, love old stories, and 100% love old music. In my opinion, you'll probably would be surprised to hear that doo-wop is my favorite genre of music of all time. It's weird, but when I'm on those 7-hour bus rides to Vermont, I got to listen to something good. So that's what I listen to. And many nights in New York City when it's open, you'll find me in the West Village at Arthur's Tavern, a small little jazz club, one of my favorite spots to be. So this next story is one that I never knew about, but you hear them kind of through history. It was on Twitter yesterday. Apparently, Ella Fitzgerald, the famous singer, had a tough time being booked in an establishment in LA called the Mocambo because she didn't have the necessary glamour. I mean, we can all put 2 and 2 together. So one of her closest friends and biggest fans turns out to be Marilyn Monroe. She had heard about Ella's problem and did what she could. The phrase using her privilege to call the owner and promise at every show that Ella performs at your establishment, I will sit in the front row. Basically, I'll bring, in the money that you're so worried about not getting because you're going to have a black performer. So obviously, Marilyn comes, and it's a huge hit. And many, many times, Ella would be forced to use the back entrance and not eat where everybody else ate. These kind of crazy stories, which, you see the movie Green Book, which got a lot of critical views about it. But, just I don't know if you saw it, Bill, but just the experience of what it would have been like as a black performer in an older time, which is horrible. I mean, this was L.A., and this type of thing was going on. So I love Ella, love everything that she's about. You probably didn't know that about me, but I need a little Ella Fitzgerald in my life, and I love this story.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that anybody would ever reject Ella Fitzgerald from performing anywhere. But you sort of see stories like this and see where we are now, and it all sort of makes sense. And in terms of doo-wop, you would have loved when we had Rich Donnelly as our manager in Brooklyn. Every batting practice, doo-wop music, exclusively, right up your alley. Not necessarily up the alley of 19-year-olds at a high school.
Players that said no.
Right, but you and Rich would have been happy. So for my chicken parm hero, I am going to focus on Principal Amy Nelson of Sanford Middle School in Minneapolis. She was contacted by parents of her students who were looking for ways to get access to food while many of the essential businesses throughout Minneapolis and the St. Paul area were closed as a result of the unrest following the murder of George Floyd. So the principal posted a message on social media asking for 85 food kits to distribute to some of her students. Well, as of yesterday, donations poured in from all over the area, all over the country, and over 2,000 families have been served meals all over the Twin Cities. In fact, when you're reading through some of these different stories that have been posted on social media, there was a family from Wisconsin who saw the story on social media and the list of the food items that they were asking for. So they printed it out, brought it to the supermarket, and were planning on driving from Wisconsin to Minnesota to drop off the necessary food items. And while they were waiting in line, there was 4 or 5 other people in line as well, and they were all carrying the same shopping list and had the same thing in mind. So just a great story all around. And when you see these photos of these schools and these food pantries all over Minneapolis that are just being inundated with food and supplies for people, it's just we're obviously going through a tough time, but you see stuff like this and you sort of see the good in people, and that not everybody's bad, and there are some good people out there doing some good things. So thank you to Principal Amy Nelson and everybody else in the Minneapolis area who have helped distribute this food and make sure it gets in the hands of the right people.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I mean, it was, whether you watch, it's tired of watching CNN or not, there was a map up that all 50 states had a protest. I mean, the whole map was the same color. Everyone's kind of in this together a little bit. So I know that there's a lot more to be done. And the whole point of the movement is that we don't just stop here, but the things that are happening here and now are certainly super duper important. So another good story. I like this show. It's so much negativity. This is a fun little 15 minutes that we get to do every day.
Yeah, I saw that map of where each state that had a protest. The last time you saw a map like that was when you asked the question, "Who likes pizza?" Right. There's very few things that everybody agrees on, right. But this seems to be one of the things.
Sports time again. I guess I'm just an old man. I'll just go in chronological order again. Billy, if I gave you $10, could you spot John Olerud on the subway? I saw this classic video on Twitter of John riding the 7 train. Could you have spotted him?
I don't know. I saw this video yesterday and I asked myself that question. John Olerud looks like every dad at Costco when the doors open on Saturday. So I don't know if I'd be able to pick him out of a lineup, which is unbelievable because, I'm a Met fan and he was great during his time with the Mets.
And if you don't know Bill and Ted, you're certainly not going to know John Olerud. But for the rest of us, take a look and see if you can spot him.
Thousands of people ride the subway to work every day, but I doubt any have the same job as this man. Look familiar? It's strap hanger / first baseman John Olerud of the Mets, taking the number 7 train to work. Why? Because his wife needs the family car.
I've done it a number of times. Maybe we'll be someplace downtown, doing some sightseeing or something like that. And it'd just be easier for me just to jump on the subway and head out.
He may be seen by millions playing baseball, but on the subway, he's just another commuter. Few seem to notice him.
I just assume be anonymous. Getting noticed is nice and that sort of thing, but there are times where it's just nice to be a normal person, just be able to blend into the crowd and, walk around and do some things that you want to do. So I like being anonymous.
So apparently, you watch the video, like, why is he riding the subway? Is it for kicks? Kind of, but also because his wife had the car that day, which is just like the most normal, average person response ever. Nobody bothered him, and I'm sure nobody had any idea. I probably would have a tough time. And I was thinking back to some of the famous videos that we've seen in the last few years when LeBron and the Cavs rode the subway and like people had no idea who they were. Jay-Z, there's that famous video of him on his way to Barclays on the subway, and this woman says, you look familiar. Yeah, thanks, lady. But John Olerud, I definitely would have missed that one.
Yeah, John Olerud was like the perfect guy for this story. Like Mike Piazza couldn't have done it. Fonzie probably couldn't have done it. But John Olerud, he's just like the everyman, like he just looks like I said, every single person you see at Costco on a Saturday morning. For my sports story yesterday, we talked about racing returning to Belmont here on Long Island. But today we're hearing about plans from the USTA to try to create a New York area bubble in order to get the U.S. Open up and running later on this summer. I've heard this at one point, and it sort of blew my mind, that the USTA and the U.S. Open brings more money into the New York economy than the Mets and Yankees, like, combined. So I never knew that. I guess with all the hospitality that's required and all the hotel rooms that get used and the restaurants and all that stuff, I guess it sort of makes sense. I also never fact checked, so that could just be completely a lie that was told to me at one point in my life. But anyway, under this proposed plan, they would move the preliminary events, sort of the warm-up events for the U.S. Open that are typically held near Cincinnati, to New York in hopes of allowing all participants, I guess, to sort of set up shop here in New York and be here for what is most likely going to be a month for the top competitors, and not have to worry about any outside influences, and sort of what the NBA is trying to do with Disney World and what you're hearing about these other plans for other sports to try to get started. So it's still unsure if public officials will allow either of these events to take place in New York. They're both in August, so there's about 2 months from now. So there's some time. But the other concern is, for these players who would have to come, a lot of them from Europe and Asia, to come here, and they'd have to quarantine. And then when they went back home, they'd have to quarantine again. So when you're coming here, you would not be able to really train for 2 weeks. And then when you left, you would not be able to train for 2 weeks. So like Elaine, you quarantine and then you quarantine again. So try to get a Seinfeld reference in the show if we couldn't. But it's at least something. That's one of the biggest events that we have in New York and in American sports, I guess, the U.S. Open, in terms of the global impact that it has. So hopefully they're able to figure something out and get life sort of back to normal here as summer gets to a close, leading into football season. So if they can get a way to figure this out, there's better hopes for the Jets and the Giants when they get rolling soon after the U.S. Open would normally wrap up.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to the U.S. Open. It's always really expensive to see like the main court, but tennis. A lot of people can get behind tennis. It's kind of easy, like soccer a little bit. I remember my grandparents used to watch the 6-hour battles of Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi back in the day. So love tennis, and If that is true, I mean, that's a lot of money that you said there. So we'll fact check. I don't know if the Slice of Life we have a whole team of writers, so I'll have them look at it. But yeah, that'd be great. And my buddy's in Cincinnati because I went to school in Ohio, so they're going to be a little ticked that they're not going to have the U.S. Open. But sorry.
What are you gonna do?
The Slice of Life Thursday wraps up. We'll be back again tomorrow for the final show of the week. Be safe. Be excellent, I guess, is the news of the day today. So
I see what you did there. I appreciate that.
Bill and Keith's Ultimate Adventure. I'll see you tomorrow. Bro.
Take care, everybody.